The Corsair should not still be flying. Flames pour from the engine cowling, streaming back across the canopy in ribbons of orange and black. The right wing has 3 jagged holes the size of dinner plates. Hydraulic fluid sprays from severed lines, misting the cockpit glass. The altimeter reads 8,000 feet. The temperature gauge is buried in the red. Every instrument screams the same message. Get out. Bail out. Die if you stay. But Captain Robert Brennan pulls the stick back instead of reaching for the canopy release. He banks hard into the formation of German fighters closing from above. 5 Messerschmitt Bf-109s, flown by veteran aces who have killed dozens of Allied pilots. They see the fire, they see the smoke. They assume the kill is already theirs. Then, Brennan does something no pilot in the European theater has ever attempted. He does not run, he does not dive for cloud cover, he does not radio for help. He flies directly at them through his own smoke, trailing flames like a comet, and opens fire. The Germans scatter, not from fear, from confusion. Burning aircraft do not attack, they fall, they spiral, they explode. But this one is climbing, turning, firing. The lead Messerschmitt breaks left, too slow. Brennan's 50 caliber rounds walk across its fuselage. Metal tears. The canopy shatters. The German fighter rolls inverted and plummets, trailing smoke darker than Brennan's own. 4 enemy fighters remain. They regroup. They are professionals. They have seen burning planes before. They know this one will fall any second. They press the attack. Brennan meets them head-on. His Corsair shudders. The fire spreads. The controls stiffen as hydraulic pressure bleeds away. He can feel the stick fighting him, the aircraft trying to stall, trying to die. He holds it level through willpower and trim adjustments calculated in fractions of degrees. Another Messerschmitt commits. It dives from 11 o'clock high, cannons flashing. Brennan waits. The German closes to 400 yards, 300, 200. Then Brennan rolls through the smoke, uses the flames as a screen, and emerges firing from an angle the enemy pilot never anticipated. The second Messerschmitt takes hits in the engine. It trails coolant, a white plume against the winter sky. It breaks off, diving east, already lost. 3 remain. The German flight leader radios something urgent. His voice is tight, clipped. The words are in German, but the tone is universal. This is not normal. This should not be happening. Brennan cannot hear the transmission. His radio is damaged. His headset crackles with static and the roar of wind through bullet holes in the fuselage. He does not need to hear them. He can see their hesitation. He banks again, trailing fire, trailing smoke, and the winter sun behind him turns the flames into something terrible and bright. 8 minutes remain. 3 enemy aces still hunt. And the burning Corsair refuses to fall. Winter. 1943. The sky above occupied Europe is a graveyard, measured in aluminum and blood. Every morning, Allied bombers lift off from English airfields and fly into a killing zone where German fighters wait with the patience of wolves. Every evening, empty bunks multiply and ground crews scrub cockpits clean of what remains. The mathematics are brutal and precise. For every 100 fighters that cross the channel, 12 do not return. Of those 12, 8 are shot down by enemy aircraft. The rest fall to mechanical failure, weather, or pilot error. The numbers improve slightly each month, but improvement is relative. Dying at 11% instead of 13% is still dying. Inside a Corsair cockpit at 20,000 feet, the temperature hovers near freezing. Breath fogs the instruments. Ice forms on the inside of the canopy glass. Pilots wear leather jackets, not for style, but for survival. The metal frame of the aircraft conducts cold like a refrigerator. Touch the wrong surface with bare skin and you leave flesh behind. The smell is aviation fuel, oil, sweat, and fear. Not the sharp terror of sudden combat, but the low constant dread of men who know the odds. Some pilots vomit before missions, others shake. A few develop rituals, touching the same rivet, wearing the same scarf, praying to gods they stopped believing in years ago. None of it matters. The Luftwaffe does not care about rituals. German pilots are veterans. Many have flown since the invasion of Poland in 1939. They have killed over France, over Britain, over Russia. They know their aircraft. They know the sky. They know how to exploit every advantage. The Messerschmitt Bf 109 climbs faster than a Corsair. It turns tighter at high altitude. Its 20mm cannons punch through Allied armor like paper. In a fair fight, the German wins. So Allied doctrine is built around avoiding fair fights. Fly in formation, maintain mutual support, use speed and altitude. Engage only when you have advantage. Disengage when you do not. Survive to fight tomorrow. It works when conditions allow, but conditions rarely allow. Bomber escort missions stretch fighters to their operational limits. They fly at maximum range, burn fuel just reaching the target area, and have minutes of combat time before they must turn back or run dry. The Germans know this. They wait. They watch. They strike when the escorts are low on fuel and far from home. When a fighter takes damage, doctrine is absolute. Break off. Head for friendly territory. Preserve the aircraft if possible. Preserve the pilot always. A damaged fighter cannot protect bombers. A dead pilot cannot be replaced quickly. The logic is sound. The statistics support it. Every manual, every briefing, every combat report says the same thing. If you are hit, you leave. No one questions this. No one until Brennan starts sketching diagrams in a notebook and asking questions that make his squadron commander uncomfortable. Robert Brennan was born in 1920 in a town so small it appears on maps only as a dot along a railroad line in western Pennsylvania. His father operated a grain elevator. His mother taught piano to farmers' children who paid in eggs and vegetables. The house smelled of wood smoke and old paper. Dinner conversation revolved around weather patterns, crop yields, and the mechanics of farm equipment. Brennan learned early that precision mattered. A miscalculation in grain weight meant lost profit. A broken harvester during peak season meant financial ruin. His father solved problems with slide rules and worn reference manuals. His mother solved them with patience and repetition. Brennan inherited both approaches. He attended a one-room schoolhouse where a single teacher managed 8 grades simultaneously. He was neither the smartest student nor the most popular. Teachers described him as thorough. Classmates described him as quiet. He built model airplanes from balsa wood and tissue paper, obsessing over weight distribution and wing angles. Other boys crashed theirs for fun. Brennan's always flew straight. He graduated high school in 1937 with decent grades and no clear direction. College was not financially possible. The local airfield offered crop dusting work. Brennan took it. He learned to fly in a patched biplane that burned oil and rattled like a threshing machine. The instructor was a barnstormer who had flown mail routes in the 20s. He taught Brennan the basics: takeoff, landing, turns, stalls, how to read weather, how to judge wind, how to nurse a failing engine back to the ground. Brennan absorbed it all. He kept a logbook that included not just flight hours but fuel consumption, temperature variations, and engine performance notes. The instructor called him obsessive. Brennan called it thorough. When war broke out in Europe, Brennan was working as a freight pilot, flying small cargo runs between rural airstrips. He enlisted in 1941, weeks after Pearl Harbor. The Army Air Forces needed pilots desperately. Training was abbreviated. Brennan transitioned from single-engine civilian aircraft to military fighters in less than 6 months. Instructors noted his technical aptitude. They also noted his hesitation during simulated combat. He thought too much. He calculated when he should react. One evaluation called him unsuited for aggressive fighter operations. Another suggested reassignment to transport duty. Brennan requested fighters anyway. He was assigned to a Corsair squadron bound for Europe. His squadron mates were younger, louder, more confident. They drank heavily. They chased women. They talked about glory and kills and becoming aces. Brennan did none of these. After missions, he sat alone in the corner of the barracks with maintenance manuals and after-action reports. He sketched aircraft performance curves. He noted patterns in enemy tactics. His fellow pilots called him Dutch behind his back. Some called him the Professor. A few called him the Undertaker because of how quietly he moved. No one called him a friend. The Corsair has a reputation. Pilots call it the bent-wing bastard, the hog, the ensign eliminator. It is fast, heavily armed, and nearly indestructible under normal conditions. But normal conditions do not include combat damage. When a Corsair takes hits, it becomes a different aircraft entirely. The hydraulic system runs exposed along the fuselage spine. A single 20mm round can sever multiple lines simultaneously. When hydraulics fail, the controls stiffen. What once required gentle pressure now demands full strength. Pilots fight the stick with both hands. Ailerons respond sluggishly. Elevators freeze halfway. The aircraft wallows like a wounded animal. Fire is worse. The engine sits directly ahead of the cockpit. When fuel lines rupture or oil ignites, flames pour back across the canopy. Smoke fills the cockpit. Visibility drops to zero. The heat becomes unbearable. Pilots have perhaps 60 seconds before the fire reaches the main fuel tanks. After that, the aircraft explodes. Doctrine is clear. If your hydraulics fail, disengage immediately, head for base. Nurse the aircraft home if possible. If fire breaks out, bail out. Do not hesitate. Do not try to save the plane. Preservation of pilot life outweighs preservation of equipment. The statistics support this approach. Between January and November of 1943, 47 Corsairs are lost to combat damage over Europe. Of those, 31 pilots bail out successfully. 14 attempt to fly their damaged aircraft home. Only 3 survive. The conclusion is obvious. Staying with a damaged Corsair is suicide. Every briefing reinforces this. Every combat report confirms it. The manuals are explicit. Damage equals withdrawal. Fire equals bailout. No exceptions. Brennan reads the reports differently. He notices something the statistics do not capture. The pilots who bail out survive, but their aircraft fall into enemy territory. The tactical situation does not improve. Bomber formations lose their escorts. Remaining fighters must cover larger areas. The Germans press their advantage. More bombers fall. The cascade effect costs lives. But there is another pattern buried in the data. The few pilots who stay with damaged aircraft and survive all report the same phenomenon. Enemy fighters break off. They assume the damaged plane is finished. They turn to engage other targets. The damaged aircraft, ignored and forgotten, limps away. Brennan begins sketching scenarios. If a Corsair is on fire, but still flyable, enemy pilots expect it to fall or flee. Their positioning reflects that assumption. They maneuver for the follow-up kill or shift to fresh targets. But what if the burning aircraft attacks instead? The enemy has committed to a mental model. Burning equals defeated. If that model breaks, their tactics break. They hesitate. They reposition. They waste time and fuel solving a problem that should not exist. Brennan takes his theory to Major Garrison. The squadron commander listens with growing irritation. He calls the idea reckless. He says damaged aircraft cannot maneuver effectively. He says fire spreads too fast. He says Brennan is proposing murder disguised as tactics. The discussion ends. Brennan is told to focus on flying his assigned missions and stop inventing problems. But Brennan cannot stop thinking. He lies awake in his bunk, listening to the wind rattle the barracks walls, running calculations, fuel burn rate, fire spread velocity, structural stress limits, control surface effectiveness at reduced hydraulic pressure. He knows the numbers. He knows the physics. He knows it could work. But knowing and proving are separated. by a gulf filled with fire and bullets, and the absolute certainty that if he is wrong, he will die screaming. The concept forms slowly across weeks of observation and thought. Brennan watches gun camera footage from successful engagements. He studies the angles. He measures closure rates. He notes how German pilots position themselves for kills. They are methodical. They follow patterns refined over years of combat. When they attack a damaged aircraft, they approach from the rear quarter, staying outside the defensive fire arc. They expect the target to flee or fall. Their attack run is calculated for an opponent moving predictably away. If the target instead turns toward them, the geometry collapses, closure rate doubles, deflection angles change, the attacker must abort or risk collision. But turning requires control authority. A damaged Corsair with failed hydraulics cannot execute tight maneuvers. Except Brennan realizes the fire itself changes the equation. Flames and smoke create visual disruption. An attacking pilot cannot see clearly through the chaos. His aim suffers. His timing falters. More importantly, his psychology shifts. Pilots are trained to avoid fire. Fire means explosion. Fire means danger. Flying into smoke from a burning aircraft violates every survival instinct. If the burning plane turns into the attack, the German pilot faces a choice: press through smoke and flames for an uncertain kill, or break off and engage a cleaner target. Most will break off. It is a rational decision. Why risk collision with a plane that will explode momentarily anyway? Brennan tests pieces of the theory in training flights. He practices flying with reduced hydraulic pressure, manually isolating systems to simulate failures. He learns how much force is required to move the controls. He discovers he can still execute shallow turns and altitude changes, not dogfighting maneuvers, but enough to disrupt an attack run. He practices formation flying with smoke generators attached to his aircraft. He positions himself where wingmen have difficulty tracking him through the haze. He learns to use the visual chaos as camouflage. His squadron mates notice. They ask what he is doing. Brennan gives vague answers, training exercises, systems checks. No one presses further. Pilots are superstitious about discussing tactics that might jinx them. Garrison hears rumors. He calls Brennan into his office. He asks directly if Brennan is planning something stupid. Brennan says no. Garrison does not believe him, but without evidence of rule violation, he cannot act. He warns Brennan that unorthodox tactics get people killed. He reminds him that doctrine exists for a reason. Brennan nods. He agrees verbally. He changes nothing. The mathematics are clear in his mind now. A burning Corsair attacking instead of fleeing creates a decision loop the enemy cannot resolve quickly. Hesitation costs seconds. In air combat, seconds equal survival. But the theory remains untested. Brennan cannot simulate real combat. He cannot replicate the variables of enemy fire, actual damage, genuine fear. He needs a moment when the elements align, when his aircraft is hit, when fire breaks out, when the enemy closes for the kill. Only then can he prove the concept or die trying. He does not seek that moment. He simply knows it will come. Every combat pilot faces it eventually. The mission, where everything goes wrong, where doctrine fails, where survival requires improvisation. Brennan prepares for that moment methodically. He memorizes every control surface's response time under various hydraulic pressures. He practices emergency procedures until they become reflex. He studies enemy tactics until he can predict their movements, and he waits. December 18th, 1943. The briefing room smells of coffee and cigarette smoke. 40 pilots sit on wooden benches, breath visible in the unheated space. The intelligence officer pulls back a canvas sheet covering the wall map. Red yarn stretches from England across the Channel, deep into Germany. The target is an aircraft factory near Oschersleben. Maximum range, maximum danger. Expected enemy resistance is listed as extreme. No one asks what that means. Everyone knows. The Luftwaffe will throw everything at them. The bomber formation will consist of 200 B-17 flying fortresses. Fighter escort will be provided by 3 squadrons. Brennan's unit will cover the rear elements. They will rendezvous over the Dutch coast, stay with the bombers to the target area, then turn back when fuel reaches minimum reserve. Expected combat time is 18 minutes. Expected losses are not discussed. Weather is marginal. Cloud cover at 8,000 feet. Visibility below the clouds is poor. Above, clear and cold. Temperature at altitude will be minus 40 degrees. Pilots are reminded to check oxygen systems and heated flight suits. Frostbite can incapacitate as quickly as bullets. Garrison runs through formation assignments. Brennan is flying wing for Lieutenant Kelly. Standard defensive positioning. Stay tight. Maintain visual. Contact. Protect each other. The briefing ends. Pilots file out into the pre-dawn darkness. Ground crews have the aircraft ready. Engines are warm. Guns are loaded. Fuel tanks are topped. Brennan walks around his Corsair slowly. He checks control surfaces manually. He inspects the landing gear. He runs his hand along the fuselage seams, feeling for loose rivets. Staff Sergeant Novak watches him. The crew chief has seen Brennan's pre-flight routine dozens of times. It never changes. Thorough, methodical, obsessive. Novak asks if everything looks good. Brennan nods. He climbs into the cockpit. The smell is familiar. Oil, hydraulic fluid, worn leather, metal. He straps in, 5-point harness, tight enough to bruise. He connects oxygen. He tests the radio. He adjusts the gun sight. He goes through the startup checklist item by item, verifying each switch position, each gauge reading. The engine catches. The propeller blurs. The Corsair vibrates. Alive and ready. Around him, other fighters start in sequence. The sound builds into a roar that drowns out thought. Kelly taxis past. Brennan falls in behind him. They roll to the runway. The tower clears them. Kelly advances throttle. His Corsair accelerates, lifts, climbs into the gray morning. Brennan follows. Gear up, flaps up, climb, power set. The airfield drops away. England spreads below, patchwork fields and hedgerows disappearing into mist. The squadron forms up over the coast. 48 fighters in loose formation. They turn east. The channel passes beneath them, dark and cold. The Dutch coast appears, then occupied Europe. Then the bomber stream. 200 aircraft flying in tight boxes, stacked in altitude stretching for miles. Brennan slots into position on the right flank. The formation flies deeper into Germany. The sky is empty. The radio is quiet. Then someone calls contact. Bandits high, coming down from the sun, and everything breaks. The first Messerschmitts dive from 25,000 feet. 6 of them in a loose echelon. They are fast. They are coordinated. They single out a straggling bomber and pour cannon fire into its wings. The B-17 shudders. Smoke trails from 2 engines. It drops out of formation. The Messerschmitts climb away untouched. More German fighters appear. They come from multiple directions, attacking in waves, forcing the escorts to split their attention. Kelly breaks left to intercept a pair diving toward the bombers. Brennan follows. They close to firing range. Kelly shoots, misses. The Messerschmitts roll through his fire and continue their run. Brennan fires a short burst. His rounds fall behind the target. The German fighters reach the bombers, fire, and climb away before the escorts can pursue. The radio explodes with voices, calls for help, vectors to targets, warnings of fighters behind. Brennan tries to stay with Kelly, but the formation dissolves into individual engagements scattered across miles of sky. He spots a lone Messerschmitt, positioning for another pass. He turns to intercept. The German pilot sees him. They close head-on. Both fire. Brennan's windscreen cracks. Something punches through the cowling. He smells burning oil. He checks his instruments. Oil pressure dropping, temperature rising, not critical yet, but degrading. The Messerschmitt flashes past. Brennan starts to turn, but another fighter attacks from above. Hauptmann Weiss, veteran ace. 23 kills. He dives with textbook precision, angles for a deflection shot, and fires. Cannon shells tear through Brennan's right wing. Hydraulic fluid sprays. Alarms sound. The stick stiffens in his hand. Brennan tries to turn. The controls fight him. He uses both hands. The Corsair responds sluggishly. Weiss climbs for another pass. Brennan knows what comes next. Doctrine says disengage. Head for home. Preserve the aircraft and pilot. But more fighters are closing. He sees them circling like sharks. 5 Messerschmitts, all veterans, all positioning for the kill. If he runs, they will chase him down. Damaged aircraft cannot outrun healthy ones. If he tries to fight conventionally, he loses. Stiffened controls mean he cannot maneuver. He cannot dogfight. He is already dead, unless. Brennan makes a decision that violates every rule he has been taught. He does not run. He does not call for help. He advances throttle. The damaged engine screams. Oil temperature spikes into the red. Smoke begins pouring from the cowling. Then flames. Orange fire licks back across the windscreen. The cockpit fills with smoke. Heat radiates through the instrument panel. This is the moment every pilot fears. The moment when the aircraft stops being a machine and becomes a coffin. Brennan should bail out. He has seconds before the fire spreads to the fuel tanks. Instead, he banks toward the nearest Messerschmitt. He flies into his own smoke. He aims through flames. He fires. The German pilot sees a burning Corsair attacking him and freezes. The hesitation lasts half a second. It is enough. Brennan's rounds hit. The Messerschmitt's canopy shatters. It rolls inverted and falls. 4 Messerschmitts remain. Oberleutnant Richter leads them. He radios his flight, voice tight with confusion. The burning Corsair should be falling. Instead, it is climbing, maneuvering, fighting. He orders a coordinated attack. 2 fighters from above, 2 from the sides. Standard tactics, overwhelming force. Brennan sees them position. He calculates their approach vectors, closure rates, firing windows. His mind works through the problem methodically despite the flames, despite the smoke, despite the screaming alarms. The fire has spread along the engine cowling, but has not yet reached the fuel tanks. He has perhaps 3 minutes before the aircraft explodes, maybe 4 if the fire burns slow. The hydraulics are failing completely now. Moving the stick requires full strength. His arms ache. Sweat soaks his flight suit. The temperature inside the cockpit climbs, past 100 degrees. 2 Messerschmitts dive from above. Brennan waits until they commit, then pulls hard. The Corsair climbs through its own smoke trail. The Germans lose visual contact for 2 seconds. When they emerge below the smoke, Brennan is not where they expected. He is above them, inverted, firing down through the flames that stream from his engine. His rounds rake across 1 Messerschmitt's fuselage. It breaks away, trailing coolant. Damaged, but not destroyed. 3 remain. Richter attacks from the beam, a perfect 90-degree deflection shot. He leads the target, compensates for speed and altitude, fires. His rounds hit. They punch through Brennan's left wing, through the tail section, through the canopy frame. Glass shatters. Wind screams through the cockpit, but Brennan is already moving. He uses the smoke as a screen, rolling through it, emerging at an angle Richter did not anticipate. He fires. Short controlled bursts. His ammunition is running low. Every round must count. Richter's Messerschmitt takes hits in the wing root. Fuel sprays. Fire blooms. Richter bails out. His parachute opens. He descends into the winter fields of Germany, watching the burning Corsair continue to fight. 2 Messerschmitts left. They are cautious now. They circle at distance, communicating, planning. They have never encountered anything like this. Burning aircraft do not attack, they fall. This one refuses to follow the script. Brennan checks his fuel. 12 minutes remaining before he must turn back or run dry. He checks the fire, spreading but contained. The engine still produces power. The controls still respond. Barely. The 2 remaining Germans coordinate their attack. They come from opposite sides simultaneously, forcing Brennan to choose which threat to address. He chooses neither. He dives straight down through the middle of their attack pattern. They adjust, follow, try to reacquire. Brennan pulls out of the dive, G-forces crushing him into his seat. Blood draining from his head, vision graying. The Corsair groans, metal flexes, something tears. But he levels out. The Messerschmitts overshoot. They pull up, repositioning. Brennan climbs back into the fight. One fighter comes in from 7 o'clock low. Brennan banks, uses the flames to mask his movement, fires blind through the smoke. He does not see the hits. He hears them. A German engine coughs, sputters, dies. The Messerschmitt glides away, pilot searching for a place to crash land. One remains. The last Messerschmitt breaks off. The pilot has watched 4 of his comrades fall or flee. He radios a report. His voice shakes. He describes a burning American fighter that refuses to die, that attacks through flames, that fights with impossible precision despite visible damage. He says it is not natural. He says something is wrong. He disengages and dives for lower altitude, unwilling to test his luck further. Brennan is alone. The sky around him is empty. Below, the bomber formation continues toward the target, unaware of the individual battle fought above them. Brennan's fuel gauge reads 8 minutes. His hydraulics are completely dead. His engine temperature is beyond maximum. The fire has burned through the cowling and is licking at the firewall. If it breaches, the cockpit will fill with flames. He cannot stay airborne much longer. He turns west toward England. The Channel is 80 miles away. He does not have 80 miles of fuel. He does not have 80 miles of structural integrity. The Corsair is disintegrating around him. Pieces of metal tear away in the slipstream. The controls respond in jerks and shudders. He fights the stick constantly, making tiny corrections, keeping the aircraft barely level. Lieutenant Kelly appears on his wing. He radios, voice incredulous. He asks if Brennan is hit. Brennan acknowledges. Kelly tells him to bail out. Brennan refuses. Kelly stays with him, escorting him west. Other fighters form up. They have seen the smoke trail from miles away. They thought it was a bomber going down. Instead, it is a Corsair on fire, somehow still flying. The radio fills with transmissions, pilots reporting Brennan's status to base, ground controllers trying to coordinate emergency response, a flight surgeon, Captain Mitchell, ordering Brennan to bail out over friendly territory while he still has altitude. Brennan ignores them all. He flies. Each minute is a negotiation between failing systems. The engine loses power gradually. He leans the mixture to stretch fuel. The fire burns hotter. He cannot extinguish it. He can only endure. The English coast appears through the haze. The Channel passes beneath. England spreads ahead. Ground control directs him to the nearest airfield. He lines up for approach. Tower controller Lieutenant Walsh sees the flames from 2 miles out. He orders Brennan to bail out. The aircraft is unsalvageable. Brennan will die if he tries to land. Brennan does not respond. He configures for landing. Gear down. The mechanism grinds, struggles, locks. No hydraulics means no flaps. No flaps means high landing speed. High speed means long rollout. He will need every foot of runway. He descends. 300 feet to 200, 100. The Corsair crosses the threshold, trailing fire and smoke. It touches down hard. The tires blow immediately. The aircraft skids on rims, throwing sparks. Without brakes, Brennan cannot slow. He uses rudder and throttle, steering with what control remains. The Corsair slides sideways. It spins. It collapses onto its belly. Metal screams. The propeller disintegrates. The aircraft grinds to a stop at the runway edge, burning. Crash crews race toward it. They spray foam. The flames resist, then die. The canopy is jammed. Brennan pushes. It does not move. Fire crews pry it open with crowbars. Brennan climbs out, legs unsteady. He walks 3 steps and sits on the grass. Captain Mitchell runs to him, checking for injuries. Brennan has burns on his hands, cuts from shattered glass, bruises from harness restraint. But he is alive. Staff Sergeant Novak arrives with his ground crew. They stare at the Corsair. It should not exist in this condition. The engine is melted, the wings are shredded, fuel tanks are punctured, hydraulic lines are severed. Novak counts bullet holes while the wreckage cools. He stops at 300. There are more. The aircraft is less machine than sieve. Major Garrison arrives. He does not speak immediately. He walks around the wreckage. He examines the damage. Then he asks Brennan what happened. Brennan explains calmly, methodically. The engagement, the damage, the fire, the decision to attack rather than flee. The 5 Messerschmitts. Garrison listens without interrupting. When Brennan finishes, Garrison asks if he understands how insane that sounds. Brennan says yes. Garrison asks if he would do it again. Brennan says he does not know. It depends on the variables. Garrison tells him to report to intelligence. For debrief, Lieutenant Colonel Hayes interviews Brennan for 2 hours. He wants every detail: times, altitudes, aircraft types, pilot actions. Brennan provides them. Hayes cross-references with gun camera footage. The camera was damaged but captured fragments, enough to confirm the story. 5 German fighters engaged, 5 driven off or shot down. Hayes writes a report. He recommends Brennan for commendation. He also recommends investigation. The tactic violates doctrine. It succeeded through luck as much as skill. It cannot be replicated safely. But pilots talk. Word spreads through the squadrons. The story grows. Details become exaggerated. 5 kills become 10. The fire becomes an inferno. Brennan becomes invincible. He does not encourage the mythology. He returns to duty 3 days later, flying a replacement Corsair. He flies standard missions. He follows doctrine. He does not repeat the tactic. But other pilots think about it. They discuss it in quiet conversations. They consider the variables. A few attempt variations. Most fail. Some die. The tactic is too dangerous, too dependent on perfect timing and desperate circumstance, but the idea persists. Damaged does not mean defenseless. Fire does not mean finished. Under the right conditions, chaos itself becomes a weapon. German intelligence intercepts Allied radio traffic. They compile reports, multiple references to burning aircraft attacking rather than retreating. Luftwaffe pilots describe encounters where standard tactics failed against damaged opponents. Training manuals are updated, warnings are added. Do not assume a burning aircraft is defeated. Maintain caution. The war continues. Brennan flies through spring of 1944. He is promoted to captain. He trains new pilots. He teaches energy management, situational awareness, aircraft systems. He does not teach his tactic. It cannot be taught. It can only be survived. No medal is awarded, no official recognition. Commanders decide the engagement was too unorthodox to celebrate publicly. It succeeded, but promoting it might encourage recklessness. The decision is made quietly. Brennan does not protest. He never sought recognition. Post-war records are fragmentary. Brennan's name appears in unit histories, mission logs, casualty reports for aircraft lost, but the story of December 18th is buried in classified debriefs and forgotten. He returns to civilian life. He works as an engineer. He designs nothing related to aviation. He dies in 1978. His obituary is brief, but in flight schools decades later, instructors still tell stories. They describe aircraft that should have fallen but flew, pilots who should have died but fought, moments when everything went wrong and someone made it right through physics, courage, and the stubborn refusal to accept that burning meant beaten.